Now, the Finance Minister, Kojo, will present the 2022 mid-year budget review in Parliament later today, July 25. Mr. Ofeyata was scheduled to deliver the address on Wednesday, July 13th, but the date was changed due to the negotiations between government and the International Monetary Fund, IMF. The postponement was to allow the government to possibly make some recommendations to the budget. Meanwhile, the minister is also expected to make his official comment on this decision after publicly stating the country would not go to the IMF. He will equally provide information on how revenue and expenditure had performed in the first half of the year and the country's current budget deficit figures. For instance, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mark Bedu Abuaje, has urged government to use the review to sustain and improve upon the investor confidence generated by the IMF's visit. According to him, while Ghana has started to fare better in the international market following the government IMF announcement, it was important for the Finance Ministry to announce policies that will improve the local market as well. Joining me is Gilbert Adu Yerenchi, Manager Tax at Deloitte, Ghana. Good morning to you, sir, and thanks for your time.
Good morning.
So first and foremost, what should we expect from the Finance Minister based on the present economic situation and negotiations with the International Monetary Fund for a program?
Great. I mean, first and foremost, why would government seek the assistance of the IMF? Principally is to also assist in shoring up what the revenue base of the country. I think that the expectation would be that government should come with measures that will lead to sufficient revenue mobilization in order to ensure that the social services that they would have to provide for citizenry is also done. So that will be the key expectation in terms of, sitting on a table with the IMF. And it's very important, but one challenge is that, you see, one would think that there are sufficient loopholes in raising revenue. But then sometimes the challenge is also that, well, the ones that we are raising, how are we putting them to efficient use? So all these things interplay, and it just drives the investor decisions that any other person who would want to invest in this country or do business in Ghana will be looking at. So it's going to be very key on the table.
Okay. Yeah. So what are some of the key things that, based on the economy and what you know of it, expect to hear from the Finance Minister?
Well, we expect to hear, currently people are having challenges with the taxes that they have. So the expectation is that there could be some window of some tax reduction, at least. That could be the possible expectation. But we doubt, because, you can't go to the IMF and then you say you would want to put in measures to also ease the tax burden. So there would naturally be some form of a balance, some form of equilibrium to ensure that it's a win-win situation. At one breath, we try to ease the tax burden on people, and then at another breath, we try to ensure that we push, the citizenry to understand the need to pay taxes. So it's very key. I think measures that will be put in place to ensure that tax revenue is shored up. Once we're able to achieve that balance, I think that is going to be key. It's going to be key, one of the key things that we should all expect, to see.
Which, of course, will mean that if we're going to show up tax revenue, then we don't have to expect some removals.
Excellent. But then that is the certainty. In as much as you may not expect to, see some removals. If you look at the economy today, in terms, the cost of doing business is a bit challenging. And there will be that expectation that there will be some measures to ease up or free up that space in order for, businesses to flow.
Okay.
It is through the private sector that we can create jobs. So if the cost of doing business for the private man is high, then I can create more opportunities for employment. So all these things will interplay in the decisions that government will come up at the end of the day.
Interesting. Once you're talking about tax, recently the Afrobarometer did a survey which showed Ghanaians' disapproval of the e-levy. Is this something that we should expect that it will be withdrawn?
The withdrawal of the e-levy would, I think that in our opinion, will be quite challenging. But then that is the preserve of government. looking at how the revenue that they expected to raise from the e-levy had not been forthcoming. So it's up to them to do the cost-benefit analysis, because I think that if you look at Deloitte, our budget updates, we did indicate that there is the importance for them to do a thorough analysis. That is not to say that they've not done that. But if you look at countries like Kenya that has implemented such a policy, how have they fared? Would that same situation be seen in Ghana? It's very important. What will be the response rate of the citizenry is very, very key. I mean, so the e-levy could fare well if, there is that sufficient education, there is that balance. And let's not also lose sight of the fact that there is that cry over our fiscal deficit. How government is spending. Of course, if you don't spend, how do we develop the country? But there are other areas that the citizenry are of the opinion that if you look at those areas and maybe you, reduce some of the spending in those areas, there is the tendency that you could free up the space. But then that is an expectation. Of course, the reality will dawn on you when you find yourself in that space. But for now, from where we sit, these are some of the key indicators that, everybody in the business community will be looking at, as well as the ordinary Ghanaian on the street. They are looking at ensuring that some of these things, are reduced. When I was coming, I picked a certain gentleman, and he was talking about increase in transport fare, price, all these things interplay. And there's that cry for some taxes to be removed on petroleum products. All these things will interplay. It's very important. So government will always be saddled with raising revenue and then trying to meet the expectation of the citizenry. And it's always something that you always be faced with as a government official. Yeah.
But with the figures you have at your disposal, with what you've done, you said you've analyzed the budget, and if you look at it, what would be your proposal to government in terms of tax or taxation in that area?
Great. If you do a historical analysis, I think some time back, government in its budget sought to come up with certain policies. I think one of them is the exemption bill. I have heard that the bill has been passed, but I cannot confirm same. But there's a platform that I'm on, and what we gathered was that bill, that exemption bill, has been passed. And the essence of that bill is to streamline the exemptions that we give to investors who come to do business in this country. And the expectation is that it could, shore up, government revenue. But
I can also confirm to you, Per, what I have on our table or on our console is that it was passed last week. So.
Good. Okay, so thank you for that confirmation. So it is one thing passing a law, and it's another thing monitoring to see to its implementation. So we have all, as tax consultants, have been waiting for this exemption bill because we are of the opinion that there could be some way of raising revenue if we are to effectively manage this exemption that we grant to invest. Of course, we cannot erode it entirely because we are a developing country. So, at some point, there will be the need to do that, but you need to do the cost-benefit analysis. So we are hoping that this will help government to raise in or rake in some revenue. But, as a country, over time, we've seen some of these laws being passed. But how effective has it been in terms of its implementation and monitoring? That is, if you're able to do that effectively, then we can see the gains that we expect to make from seeing. But if you are not, and it's the normal everyday thing, then in the end, we will not be able to, rake in the benefit. One other thing that government sought to bring is the implementation of the physical electronic device. It's like a device that will be given to entities that are in the retail and the wholesale market, where government can then track in real time VAT. This law has been passed, but like I said, the implementation
becomes a challenge.
So maybe there may be things that are still ongoing because I'm not in that space of work. But then we are envisaging that if you look at the entirety of the law, it even creates employment. Because you get people who will be managing the machines, people who will be moving around in real time, checking to resolve issues that pertains to these devices that will be given out to these entities. But the law has been passed and it's still there.
On the shelves.
On the shelf, let me put it that way. Maybe it's being operationalized, but we are yet to see its operationalization. And that dovetails into what I just said, that you would have passed the exemption bill. But then the question is, how do we see to the implementation of it? And if there are sanctions thereon, when it is flouted, are people going to be dealt with? That is the only time we can't be seen as trying to efficiently deal with the revenue mobilization situation that we find ourselves in as a country. I think GRE has been at the forefront. They've done very well with the implementation of the VAT on electronic service. That has been done, and a lot of entities like Bloomberg, Coursera, and all those things that render services to Ghanaians. I mean, we are now able to rake in the needed revenue because these entities are non-resident. But when it comes to taxation, especially VAT is consumption driven. So once I sit here and I consume the service, then the VAT is due. But I mean, government has been at the forefront. GRE has done excellent. They have implemented this measure. And from where we sit as tax service providers, we have assisted companies in ensuring that they fully comply with the law.
Okay.
And we envisage that revenues will be flowing in, I mean, when some of these things are implemented well. So we are hoping that government can then, GRE can leverage on these gains to ensure that this issue of revenue mobilization is adequately dealt with.
Interesting. There's still more on the budget here on the JoyNews channel. But let's cross over to Parliament to find out what the preparations are for the Finance Minister's arrival. Kweku Asante is our man on the ground there. Kweku, good morning. What's the update from your end?
So we were expecting the Finance Minister to deliver the mid-year budget presentation at about 10 o'clock a.m. We've just received information that the expectation is now that the Finance Minister will come into the House around 1 p.m. and deliver the mid-year budget statement, about 3 hours in delay. And so the House is about to start normal proceedings, take public business, take questions if there are any, before they will wait for the Finance Minister to come in. But I can say that the minority are particularly upbeat about the presentation today. They are saying that they are going to hold the Finance Minister to account. You know that last week there were issues regarding what is the country's external reserves. Today, the Finance Minister is expected to comment on that, and a debate is expected to ensue. And so at 1 p.m. when the Finance Minister comes in, the minority are expected to press on with the kind of issues that they've been raising with the state of the economy. Brace.
So what are the preparations so far? I mean, he was expected at 10, is moved to 1. What's happening now?
So in terms of the preparation, the House is set. Indeed, if you look at the other paper, the members of Parliament are going to proceed and deal with other business, including consideration of bills, including the consideration of questions and answers from ministers of state, as well as doing other business that they would normally do. We're also expecting to have a press conference with the minority, Haruna Ifiso, who is expected to give the minority's expectations ahead of the media budget review. And so that is expected to be done within the next 3 hours as we wait the Finance Minister Kanfoyata to appear for the media budget review.
How about presence in the House? Is it some sort of a full one? We know that there are some people who might not be there, but the capacity, how is it like?
Well, indeed, I don't know if normally for media budget review, the public gallery would have filled up a bit. Members of Parliament, of course, are in their numbers because it's a momentous ceremony, right? And so the House is not so packed in terms of the public gallery, in terms of invitations that have gone out. They've probably gotten information ahead of time that the Finance Minister will be coming in at 1 p.m. instead. And so that aspect is not there. But the Speaker of Parliament, Aban Bagben, just entered the chamber with business expected to comment very shortly. And so MPs are taking their seats. They are going to go on and consider other bills. If you look at the other papers that I have, there are a number of issues that they have to consider, including the adoption of reports, program for GNPC. They will also be looking at some reports from some committees, all in the interim before 1 p.m. Finance Minister Kanfoyata comes in to deliver his media budget review.
Thank you, Kweku. Be there for us. He will give us all the update from the Parliament House. So stay with us. We have a comprehensive coverage of that presentation for you here on the Joy News channel. But earlier, my colleague Papani Ashale was in town to speak to some section of the public to understand what their expectations are of this budget. Stay on.
Somewhere 6 Ghana cities. It's been difficult for you, right?
Yeah, now we cannot buy the fuel. I mean, as everybody was saying, we cannot buy the fuel. So we need for him to do the fuel for us.
So that's a driver, and top of his list is the cost of fuel. He's asking for the taxes specifically that adds up to the petroleum price build-up to probably be reviewed. Let me see if I can get some more individuals to speak to here, but it's a number of people that we are here to speak to. Drivers, transport owners, even for commuters and those that are hawking just here. Although illegal, probably the living conditions what has brought them to this situation. Madam, good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Finance Minister and then Obeko Parliament. Then our person Okanwasem and Opawe.
And Konomen.
Then I want Enyama.
Enyama Bibia Boyading. Say cry, intimate Toshi, into Okanwasem. Why, and Konomen, they say, Koyo. Say what one they cry and talk. Ediani intimate and Moses Omonte 3 city. I dream 4 city. I mean, me to a me 3 city answer me 4 city no cramp one party. They say almost say on Betia 5 city. And there's a baby boy ding. It's here part of on Cassam fat and Konomen. I say, yes, you are doing.
Bibi Potter, the Kumaso Unyanka, or best Sano, because he had TBB say a more wide day. Written in a
day. Drink a 20 sweets. They say sweets such as bag 5 CD or special 5 CD. Now some tomo be 40 pesos. Already my term. To me to 30 pesos. They say I did a ton of 2 CD. I did batch na do 4 CD. And you now call on can want some. Then just at the end a better see Jomo. Ya much a crown here, but some penny side any
penny sound. So she's a hawker here at 37. Generally she's looking at some positive conversations from the floor of Parliament to the effect of reducing the hardship that she says she's facing here. Let's speak to some more people. Bossman, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wondered, the finance minister is going to be in Parliament this morning. Anything on your mind that you are hoping that he will address?
To be honest, I think they need to do something about the fuel. Yeah.
What exactly do you want them to do about the fuel? Increase it?
No, reduce the price of the fuel.
Why reduce it?
Because it's too much. It's too expensive.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. So, yet another driver here who hopes that fuel prices will reduce. We started the year 2022 with fuel starting somewhere below 7 Ghana cedis mark. But now, like you can see on the board not far from here, it's somewhere 11 Ghana cedis 30 pesos. That's even after a marginal reduction in fuel prices just about a week ago here. So drivers, for them really, it's a matter of the fuel prices that have to come down. They are hoping that taxes will be reduced in this year media budget review. Will that be possible? Well, we can only wait and see. What do other drivers also think about the situation? We'll try to find out from some of them. But for commuters, the general Ghanaian, what are they looking at from the mid-year budget review that the finance minister expected to be reading here sometime later today? Bossman, good morning. The finance minister is going to be in Parliament. What's on your top of mind that you want him to address?
It's just fuel prices.
But you don't own a vehicle.
I own a vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a license. I own a vehicle, but because of fuel, I have to take trotro and look at the time I'm going to work.
Wow.
Yeah.
What specifically do you want him to do about the fuel prices?
It's just about taking off some of the taxes. Yeah, that is it. Because we've made a whole lot of windfall for some time now. So at least we should be enjoying some rebates from it. Yeah.
But Ghana is at IMF, and part of the IMF, I don't think that we can condone cutting down on taxes. Because Ghana, we need the revenue. You agree?
We need the revenue, but at the cost of your citizens, we need revenue. We are already making revenue. Government needs to cut a whole lot of expenditure, unnecessary expenditures. They have a whole lot of expenditures they can cut.
Can you help government with that? Which one do you think that government should take away?
It's about the expenses they do at Flagstaff House. Okay. Do you know the number of staffers at the Flagstaff House? Close to 1,000, if not more.
So you want them to cut down the number of staff?
Yes. We don't need those staffs. What are they doing there?
But government has announced at least a cut in the salaries of political appointees.
That is not going. How many ministries do we even have? Okay. We can do with less than 40 ministries. Yeah. Because aviation and all those things is just duplication. It doesn't work. Why have they reduced those? Why have they reduced the ministries up? He said from the first term that the number of ministers, people criticize him for the number of ministers, and he says it is going to wet it. What happened? Why are we going to IMF now? So it doesn't wet it. Yeah.
Well, what's your name? I didn't get your name.
My name is Dam Nelson.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nelson. So Nelson there sharing his views on his expectations from the mid-year budget review. He's expecting government to cut down on the political appointees and staffers at some of the offices associated with government. Let me ask some. Daddy, good morning. Okay, well, he wouldn't speak to us. We'll find some more people to speak to and find out for them what this really means for them. Madam, Ejumana Ekwan is saying? Ejumana Ekwan is saying?
Kakla.
Finance Minister and the call Parliament a call can ye sika sem ho sena fiti January bed CC ano sena ye di sika no call sena enya sika fa then e da wakoma so pese anka o osiesie hu ya na o ka ho asem
say niama no boya de enta de nti no mo hwe maye na enta de maye niama no boya de pa nko yie nti o mo ma ne nko yie maye
so ka say nko yie a de na o pa kire yes, yeah, na na brodo nanka utone saying.
Oh, first na me ton 50 pesos, but we can buy 50 and 1 cedi.
6 months.
Ba ku nka ba ku ya 4 cedi and 6 cedi.
So yes ka.
Oh, me nyeska so be ko bia na exam na atum. Exam na na 4-5. So mo kwa na 5-5.
Let me ask someone who's a patron here. Okay, well, she wouldn't speak to me, but who catch me say, I'm to meet on here, and say what to Musu still when you seek free.
Oh, ya to Musano, me toa back could be a media 1 cedi, that's all.
And also,
no, so in Yesica, I be a cabbage boy day, cream of boy day, sardine boy day, be a boy day.
So those were some views from the public sharing with us their expectations of what the mid-year budget should be like. But I still have with me in the studio Gilbert Addo, Yerenchi, was manager tax at Deloitte Ghana. And we've also been joined in the studio by Julius Bradford Lamptey, his head research and advocacy at the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So we were on taxation before we took that break. So let's wrap up on what you expect.
So, I mean, in the 2022 budget, you recall that government said they're going to do an implementation of the Unified Common Platform for Property Rate Administration. And they're going to do this in collaboration with GRA, which the expectation is that GRA will assist in the mobilization of the property rate, from the populace. But then we have not had any report yet on how the implementation has gone so far. And so I think that it's something that government could touch on.
So it's something you're expecting to hear
Exactly. I'm expecting to hear how that has been implemented because the issue of property rate has always been a challenge in this country. And you know, I think that one of the key indicators is how we have structured our aerial system. I mean, there are some areas that are densely populated. If you don't take care, you walk into somebody's room. So if you don't have access to these properties, who are you going to take the property rate from? You understand me? So I think that the government started some time ago with road, street naming of houses. I mean, when they were doing the census, they went around to do some coding. All these things are, I think, parameters that can help in ensuring the effective implementation of this. But I've always said that it's one thing bringing in the measure, the monitoring of it, and also penalizing people who have that opportunity to ensure the implementation of this and are not forthcoming.
We haven't done much in that area.
No, we haven't done much in that area. I mean, you send somebody to go to this house, the person may go there and even say that, okay, oh, the property rate is 10 Ghana, but if you give me 5 Ghana, we are good to go. And nothing ends up being collected. These are the realities.
Okay, so corruption is denying us.
These are the realities, and these practical realities would have to be looked at.
Okay.
And I think that if they're able to implement this measure effectively, hold people accountable, we'll be able to reap the benefit that they are expecting to get from this policy.
Okay. You heard in the video there that they expect Finance Minister will come and announce the removal of some taxes on petroleum product. Is this something you're looking at, you're expecting, from your analysis of...
From our analysis, I mean, that expectation is, of course, whatever analysis we would do, I mean, we draw inferences from the responses of the populace. I mean, whatever analysis that you would do, because, I mean, we are all feeling, or we could all feel the heat. You understand me? So if it is possible that some taxes could be removed and it may not affect government projection, then government could look at that. I've always said that when you are not in the chair, you tend to see things differently. But when you are in the chair, then you tend to... So government would have to do what we call cost-benefit analysis. Okay, when we do this, we'll get, I mean, in the eyes of the public, we will be seen as having done a good thing. But then the question is, which other sector will suffer? So a holistic analysis is very, very important. And you need to also meet the demands of the people that are within the economy, because if there's heat, I mean, it's definitely going to affect all of us. Prices are increasing. I mean, somebody just complained that, you know, when you buy bread, at first it was 2 cedi, now it's 4 cedis.
Yeah.
And all these things could be as a... You know, when the petroleum prices increases, it has a cascading effect. Because if I'm a driver and petroleum prices increase, I of course have to recover my cost. And how would I recover my
Transport
cost?
Transport
fares. So it trickles down. Someone will say, oh, but you are complaining about fuel, but you don't have a car. But of course, I don't walk to the office. I'll pick a trotro. And if
I'll pay.
And I will pay. So if the price previously was 1 cedi and it's now 3 cedis, my budget has been altered.
Yeah.
But my salary is still the same. So, but that is not to say that Deloitte is not treating me well. Deloitte is treating me good. But we are looking at the broader picture of issues.
Sure.
And I think that if they are able to look at that, it's going to help.
But you have access to the data. Is it possible there can be some reductions in petroleum taxes?
In terms of possibility, I cannot be conclusive.
Okay.
That is what I would say. Like I said, government will have to take a holistic picture about the entire economy. And if there are areas where they can do some cost-benefit analysis, I think it will be prudent for them to consider such an option.
Okay. Now, let me bring in Julius Bradford-Lamptey here. He's with the GNCCI, the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So, private sector. What is it that you're expecting from the Finance Minister today?
Thank you very much. So for we as a chamber, we are of the view that we need stability. We also need predictability. We also need to assure the business environment that investor confidence is high. Now, from the research that we have done on business confidence, for first quarter was 4.84, which it's on a scale of -100, 0 to positive 100. So having that score of 4.84 tells you that business confidence is low or almost neutral. And so this sends a very strong signal. And so we're asking government that whatever that has been done, we need to rethink and see how we are able to bolster the confidence of the business environment. We are also asking that there should not be any new taxes. And in particular, we're asking that the e-levy, which the Ministry of Finance and also the GRA brought on board, we felt that the approach was not thoroughly done. The private sector associations were not engaged. And so right from the onset that it was brought on board, they mentioned 1.75. And then we asked that it's on the high side, because from the data that we have, SMEs are generally growth-driven. But if you take EBITDA, their earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization, they run into negative. That tells you that the business environment is not conducive. So any introduction of taxes or new policy measures must take into account the growth of these SMEs who employ over 90%. And they also contribute significantly to the growth of the Ghanaian economy. So we are saying that for the e-levy, we are saying that a maximum should be 1%. There's been an instance where others have called for 5%, but we are
0.5 or 5%.
Sorry, 0.5%, but we are actually giving ourselves that margin between 0.5% to 1% to allow room to see at which band would be ideal. And also we are asking that in the IMF discussions, we are saying that much emphasis must be on industrialization. The reason why we are asking for this is that we were hit by the COVID, and so businesses were trying to recover. And unfortunately, the Russia-Ukraine crisis also came in, and that brought about the issue of input supplies. And so, for instance, the issue of fertilizer, the issue of access to wheat and other things are becoming issues that we need to account for. Just, I think last 2 or 3 weeks, the Ghana Export Promotion Authority announced that it's been able to export high. And then so it actually recorded, I'm not sure of the figure, but I think around 17%. And so the question I ask is that, given this increase, how are we going to ensure that this increase or growth is actually resilient? What risk management are we putting in place to ensure that farmers or industries that are into these sectors are able to get their input supplies disrupted? So these are the areas that I would say for now, and if there are further questions.
You spoke about business confidence.
Yes.
What is accounting for the 4-point-something% that we have?
So I think if you should compare, so we did a comparison between the fourth quarter of 2021 and then also the first quarter of 2022. And so what came in mind was the depreciation of the CD, and then also the issue of the e-levy that came on board, and then the supply side constraints. And so these were the issues that we found. However, businesses are actually putting in coping strategies, and then they are saying that they want to adopt new technologies. They would also want to employ more. But if they want to employ more, and then at the macro environment, government is found to putting in place policies that seem to be punitive, then it actually goes to cripple them. And so we're asking the government that please be mindful of the SMEs, be mindful of the policies that you put in place to ensure that their growth are actually targeted. They are also nurtured. And then afterwards, once we are able to sustain the growth of these SMEs, then they can be more value-driven, then they can be more sustainable. So this is what we're asking in the policy announcement.
Interesting. If you look at the 2022 budget itself, has it lived up to your expectations?
So for us as a chamber, we saw that the estimates that were made, the projections, that they were quite ambitious, but still attainable. However, we live in a world where there is an increasingly uncertainty. And so we're asking that in this mid-year budget review that is going to be read, we're asking government to take into account the general macro environment globally and be able to come up with key estimates that are truly realistic. It may come as a surprise that your growth estimate actually revives them, but it's what we need as a country. We are not in any competition to show that our growth potentials are high, whilst it's having a negative effect on our SMEs. And so we are saying that the government must tread cautiously and ensure that the estimates are actually data-driven and not by any populist approach.
Okay. Government should ensure that there's no populist approach there. But let's look at whether there have been a proposal from the GNCC to the Finance Ministry. Chief, has there been a proposal from your outfit to the Finance Ministry?
So I think in some of our engagement, we've asked that access to finance to SMEs is actually key. And so we were happy when the National the Development Bank Ghana was actually brought on board. And we are actually collaborating with them to, first of all, build the capacities of SMEs to scale up their operations and then also to de-risk them, then also make them able to apply the loans. Because we believe that having that loan for a minimum of 3 years actually give them that room to be able to turn around. We're also asking for technical and also financial stimulus. So we are working with other agencies as well to build their capacities in area of digitalization, also in areas of risk management, and then also staff issues. We are also asking the government to be considerate about the issue of oil. I think if you look globally, from our analysis, oil has peaked. However, the issue that we are facing is the forex reserve issue. And so we are unable to get the much needed dollars to be able to buy. And so even though you see crude oil prices dropping, we are not feeling that impact. And so we are calling on the Bank of Ghana to see how it can ensure that the cedi is actually stabilized. Because once the cedi is stabilized, I'm sure the fuel prices may be dropping and may also impact on other sectors. And the other thing that we want to say is that, unfortunately, the way Ghanaians price their goods when they see marginal increases is rather unfortunate. And I think it's about time that we sit as a nation, we sit as policy stakeholders and see how, if there's a marginal increase of about 1%, somebody will just increase their goods by 20%, 30%, and would say it's as a result of the increase in fuel prices. But this is not so. And so I think it's about time that we have that honest discussion.
So you're calling for price control there?
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. It's something that we should do. Anyway, Adorinji, let me give you your final words and then we can wrap up.
Okay, great. I think my colleague did throw light on something I did indicate earlier on, that if the cost of doing business is relatively good, it frees up the system. And once the system is freed, the issue of unemployment goes down. The prices that people are talking about would all be managed. And it's very important, especially the SMEs. They are all in the incubation stage.
Yeah, exactly.
So if they are saddled with all these challenges, interest rates are high. Currently, if you want to take a loan, it's running around 25% up to 30% thereabout. So all these things would have to be looked at. I recall that some years ago, I think one of the government, I don't remember, they tried to work on the interest rate. And you could see how, at that point, banks were pursuing...
Okay, I think it should be the Kojo.
Thank you. The banks were pursuing people to even come for loan.
Okay.
So when these things are worked on, it then affects even the tax system.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So that's Gilbert Adorinji. He's manager tax at Deloitte Ghana. We also had here Julius Bradford Lamte. He's head research and advocacy at the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We'll take a quick break. We'll bring you business after that. We have more news here for you on News Desk. Stay on.
Hello, good morning. It's time to do business with me, Beverly Broom. Mohinani Group, parent company of Politan Ghana Limited, is set to invest over $16 million to open its first bottle-to-bottle recycling plant of European standards. Now known as the RPET recycling facility, the plant will be used to source post-consumer PET bottles, and these will be recycled into a material that will be used in producing new bottles. The following report has more.
The plant, which is expected to commence operations in late 2023, will have the capacity to recycle 15,000 metric tons of plastic annually, with overall group's capacity increasing to 30,000 metric tons by late 2024. The Mohinani Group has outlined that the investment is in line with the company's commitment to meet Ghana's sustainable development goals. Ashok Mohinani is the executive director of Mohinani Group.
Plastic waste management is a huge issue all over Africa, and as we cater to the plastic sector already, it is also our responsibility for us to enter this plastic recycling space as a solution provider. We intend to close the loop for plastic packaging, and this is possible with bottle-to-bottle recycling. Especially in Ghana, where until now no closed-loop recycling exists, we are proud to be the first ones to do it.
On his part, President of the Ghana Plastic Manufacturing Association, Eboboche, said the plastic waste industry is very vibrant, hence the need for a legislative instrument to produce them.
So going forward, with all these issues going round, and government obviously will want to take its time to put the laws in place. So we came together to form PPROG, and then we also think that there should be tax waivers, VAT exemptions on recycled products. And then, most importantly, airlines will be very, very much needed to implement this project.
Meanwhile, the Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Kweku Efriye, hinted at a circular economic framework on recycling to include wood, metal, electronic waste, among others.
It is not only in the plastic realm that MESTI supports. In fact, because of the circular model economy that we have embraced, we are looking up to recycling of such items as wood, base metals, electronic waste, and so on and so forth. But we are placing a lot of emphasis on plastics as a model that can then clear the path, so to speak, for other products to follow.
Away from that, after a year of introducing smallholder farmers to the Forest Watch Up mobile app, the Rainforest Alliance says the technology has helped in growing and monitoring over 9,000 trees in the Sui River landscape. Selected smallholder farmers located in the western north region of Ghana were trained on how to use the mobile application to plant more trees in a bid to check deforestation. At the closeout ceremony, the Alliance handed over the mandate to farmers to ensure continuity of conserving biodiversity, building climate resilience, and reducing emission from land use changes in the Sui landscape. Here's more.
Ghana's forest cover keeps depleting over time, with the country recording a 60% reduction in its primary forest in 2018 alone, mainly stemming from illegal mining and hunting operations. To check the growing menace, the Rainforest Alliance introduced a data monitoring technique to over 100 farmers within the Seshirioso district. The Forest Watcher mobile app employs an online monitoring system and alerts systems of the Global Forest Watch to view areas of interest in the field. Senior Associate of the Monitoring and Evaluation Unit of Rainforest Alliance, Alvin Eduasari, says the mobile app replaces the outmoded paper-based data collection system.
We also realize that within the landscape, they are doing a lot of things on tree registration, right? It was important and imperative that the processes that they were using was also streamlined. They were using a lot of paper-based things, which really wasn't helping. It was introducing a lot of errors in the data collection processes. So we felt that it was important that we bring in a digitalized system so that the farmers themselves can go out there, collect the data in a very simplified and seamless way, so that when data is collected, it can be shot straight up into the cloud server, and then it can be displayed on dashboards on the internet. Everybody can have access to it.
Under the hybrid community-based monitoring system, data on reforestation was collected by the landscape management boards in the selected communities over a 6-month period. The piloted project, expected to be escalated to other forest regions across the country, would help address the devastating impact of climate change.
So in terms of climate change, once you plant a tree and the tree grows, that's when you realize the potential of that tree. If you plant and for a year or two the tree dies, it's a problem. How do you replace that tree, right? So we need to make sure that the tree that you plant actually survives. Somebody's taking care of that tree. And to us, that was the most important thing for us in terms of this project, so making sure that we have that system in place, which ensures that the farmers themselves can go out there, use the application, go out there, go and count their own trees, right?
That's it for business. But later this afternoon, Minister of Finance Ken Ofori-Atta will be presenting the mid-year budget review to Parliament. We'll bring you details of that in our subsequent bulletins. Enjoy the rest of our programs.
Welcome back from the break. Now, President Akufo-Addo says his government was motivated to give the late President Atta Mills a befitting resting place when his attention was drawn to the deplorable state of the Asomdwe Park. The refurbished place was opened yesterday to mark the 10th anniversary of the passing of the late leader. Addressing a short remembrance ceremony, President Akufo-Addo said government did not set out to exploit divisions within the opposition NDC with the project.
Sometime after becoming president, I became aware of the sad state of Asomdwe Park. And in 2020, I received a request from the late president's energetic communications director, Kojo Anyido, who runs the institute named after the president, for the assistance of government to rehabilitate the facility. I agreed, and subsequently, I instructed the Coastal Development Authority to undertake a thorough rehabilitation of the park with the close cooperation of the institute. It was not right that the park had been allowed to deteriorate considerably over the years since his burial in 2012. And I'm happy that it was under the presidency of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, allegedly, quote, his fiercest critic, that Asomdwe Park has been elevated to a status befitting the final resting place of a president of the Republic of Ghana. I did so with that objective solely in mind, and not to exploit or take advantage of any so-called divisions in the political party to which he belonged. Those alleged divisions are not of my making and do not in any way inure to my benefit. There have also been unfortunate accusations leveled by some against government about the supposed desecration of the tomb of the late president in the process of rehabilitating the park. Nothing could be further from the truth, and it is good to note that these false, malicious statements have been firmly dispelled and debunked.
Now, the opposition National Democratic Congress, the NDC, and family of late former leader Atta Mills observed the day few hours after the presidential event. Former President Mahama, in his address, described his former boss as a proven achiever. He had the row over the refurbishment of this grave was needless.
Professor Mills' tenure as president, admirable personal qualities and attributes. He was a proven achiever who demonstrated that one and still get a lot done. He was the personification of the expression substance over form. Despite the description given him by his detractors as Dr. Doolittle, President Mills achieved a lot in the short 3.5 years he served as president of this nation. There is no small sense of irony in the fact that we mark his 10th anniversary of his passing
at a time of unprecedented economic downturn. For here lies a man whose tenure as president yielded the best, most stable, and prosperous economic outcomes for our nation at the Fourth Republic. Under him, Ghana famously recorded its highest ever GDP growth rates of about 14.4%. And the significant thing is, under his presidency, for most of the years, the biggest contribution to our GDP growth was the non-oil sector rather than the oil sector. The real sector contributed more to GDP growth than the oil sector. And he still holds the record for the longest ever sustained period of single-digit inflation.
Now, as part of activities marking 10 years of his demise, JoyNews put together a special documentary dubbed Ghana's Great in memory of the late president. Among the characters in the piece is a son who shared fondest memories of him, including how he came to learn about his father's death. Here's an excerpt.
I remember in 2008, I was in school and he invited me to come to Ghana. I mean, he'd been trying to get me to come to Ghana for a very long time, I should say. I mean, I think when I left to go to the UK, I wasn't really interested in coming back to Ghana. So my dad was always like, Kofi, come to Ghana, Kofi. And I was like, nope, I'm not coming to Ghana. I like it here. I'm going to stay in the UK. So 2008, he invited me to come to Ghana and I was rebelling as always. And then he says, look, just come for a weekend. I need you in Ghana for a weekend. So I said, fine, one weekend, I'm coming. I'm coming on a Friday with Virgin. I'm leaving on a Monday with British Airways. And I'm out. So I came and then he made me follow him on his campaign trail. So, and that's when things started making, like I was starting to understand. I was like, wow, like what is this, you know? The whole crowd and the convoy. And I think we went to Ejumako in the central region. And, you know, driving through we even drove through like remote areas to go.
We'll bring you the entire story later on in our subsequent bulletins. So there's all in this bulletin for you. There's more on myjoyonline.com. My name is Samuel Kojo. Brace, have a great morning.